On this week's episode of Ride the Lightning, the Tesla and EV podcast, Tesla has introduced a new variant of the Model Y in the United States, but sadly, it's not the Model YL, at least not yet. Plus, Apple CarPlay is reportedly still on the way for Teslas, Consumer Reports gives the Model Y a major accolade, and more. What's happening, friends? Ryan McCaffrey joining you for episode 549 of Ride the Lightning. It's your weekly Tesla and EV podcast. I've got a relaxed Daisy the Boxer to my left on the couch looking out the window, and laying on the ground out near my wife somewhere in the living room is Lily the Silly Labrador, who is in her last night of having to wear the e-collar, or as it is maybe more commonly known, the cone of shame. She's actually been doing really well with it. She's adapted to it quite well, but she is definitely going to be happy to have that thing off tomorrow. Fortunately, she hasn't been going for her spay surgery stitches, so I think, knock on wood, that it's going to be fine when we take that e-collar off tomorrow morning. As expected, after last week's episode, which of course covered last week's huge, shocking news of the discontinuation of the Model S and the Model X, I got a lot of Ride the Lightning hotline calls, plenty of emails, plenty of messages on social media, all in response to that. And I'm grateful to all of you for sending in those messages. And I promised you a longer Ride the Lightning hotline segment this week, and I will deliver that later on in the podcast. So stay tuned for that. But first, as we get warmed up, I made this big news the subject of this week's Patreon poll, because last week that news broke too late to make it a poll. I'd already put up a poll. So here we go. This week's Patreon poll question, which as a friendly reminder is open to anyone and everyone. You don't have to be supporting me on Patreon. You just have to stop by my Patreon page each week, which is found at patreon.com/Tesla podcast, to cast your vote in each week's free poll. So the question this week was, how does the cancellation of the Model S and X immediately affect your thinking about your next car? And I tried to put in as many reasonable responses as I could. And the number one choice, it was actually really close. It was two top vote getters, and then everything else was single digits. So 34% of the 367 of you that voted, thank you so much. That's a really good turnout compared to usual. So 34% said, I wasn't planning on buying an S or an X, so this news doesn't affect my thinking about my next car. And that is a perfectly reasonable reaction, because we know, like, if we were to poll this podcast, the percentage of people that have or plan to buy an S or an X isn't going to be super high. I mean, we know that they're 3% of Tesla's cumulative production and delivery totals, so they represent a small portion of Tesla sales. So that response is not surprising. But the runner-up poll choice with 32%, so just 2% behind, this maybe was a little surprising to me. The 32% of you said, I wasn't planning on buying an S or an X, but this news shakes my confidence in Tesla staying serious about cars, so I might look elsewhere next. So that is, I think that is a significant thing right there. You've got a bunch of Tesla enthusiasts listening to this podcast, voting in this poll, and a full third of you said, hey, this kind of gets me thinking that maybe I need to look elsewhere next time. So I thought that was a pretty significant result in the poll. And then from there, 9% of you said, I would have preferred a new S or X for my next car, but I'll go with a non-Tesla instead. 6% of you said I would have preferred a new S or X for my next car, but I'll go with a Model 3 or Y next instead. 9% of you said I'm not even remotely thinking about my next car yet, which is also perfectly reasonable. And then 3% of you said, I just ordered a new S or X because of this news, which if we're talking about 367 people, that means that's like, let's see, what is that? That's like 10 or 11 of you that actually ordered an S or an X. In fact, I got emails from a few of you that did. So I thought that was pretty cool because I was talking about, for myself last week, it made me want to buy a Plaid S, this thing getting discontinued. It just made me want to get one. So I'm very happy for the number of you that were able to do exactly that. So again, stop by each week and cast your vote in the poll found at patreon.com/Tesla Podcast. All right, getting to the headline story this week, I'm putting it in with the appetizers here up front. Tesla introduced a new variant of the Model Y this week, but sadly, no, it was not the Model Y L, at least not yet. We'll see if it is coming sometime later this month, as the tip that I passed along to you suggested, or if it could end up, maybe that will change and we'll hear about it after the X has gone away. So in other words, that would be Q3. Maybe we get the Model Y L then. So we'll see. But in any case, the new variant is an all-wheel drive version of the Model Y Standard, except Tesla has dropped the Standard name. So it is now the Model Y all-wheel drive. And then the cheapest Model Y for $40,000 is now just Model Y rear-wheel drive. Premium is still called Premium, and Performance is still called Performance. So this new all-wheel drive Standard variant, and I'm sorry, I got to keep using Standard here just for the sake of discussion to be as clear about this as possible. So the Standard all-wheel drive is $42,000, so it's just a $2,000 premium over the rear-wheel drive Model Y. And I think I was talking to Lawton from Chicago this week, who's one of my super generous Roadster in Space tier backers, and that top tier, the Patreon, gets a one-on-one hangout with me each month if they elect to take it. And Lawton typically does, and we always have a good convo. And we were talking about this week, and he made the good point that I believe $2,000 is the cheapest that Tesla's ever charged for a second motor in a car. It's typically been more like $5,000 to get a dual motor versus an otherwise identical car. But in any case, $2,000, and for that extra $2,000, you obviously, of course, gain all-wheel drive, but you also gain a lot more performance because this version of the Model Y does 0 to 60 in 4.6 seconds compared to 6.8 seconds for the standard rear-wheel drive. However, there is a trade-off, and if you've been around Teslas for a while, you probably know what I'm about to say, and that is range. You are going to be sacrificing 27 miles of range, going from 321 miles of EPA-rated range on the rear-wheel drive to 294 on this all-wheel drive version. I think for most buyers of the standard Model Y, either, if you're considering the rear-wheel drive version or the all-wheel drive version, if you're asking, would I recommend spending that $2,000? I would honestly say probably not. However, if you're in a climate where you get winter weather, that's where the $2,000 might really come in handy. Now, proper tires in winter weather is the most important thing. It's far more important than having all-wheel drive. Just having proper winter tires, or in some cases where appropriate, snow tires on your car. But that's really who I think would probably get the most out of spending the extra $2,000 on that all-wheel drive version of the standard Y. I would suspect, though, that the overwhelming majority of those standard Model Y buyers probably don't care about the extra performance, right? Like the Model Y in general, you probably, performance is not top of your list the way that it might be for Model 3 and Model S buyers, the sedans, right, that tend to be a little sportier and attracting more performance-oriented customers, I can look straight in the mirror on that because that is me. Like that's because I could have bought a Model Y this time around for the second Tesla when we were replacing my wife's old Mini Cooper, because it would have been a heck of a lot more practical, all that extra cargo space. But I prioritized performance. So that's the way I went. So anyway, I don't think necessarily that people considering this all-wheel drive standard Model Y are really going to be that moved by the drastic increase in performance here. And certainly they're not going to be thrilled about losing 27 miles of range. So it really is going to be about the all-wheel drive, getting that all-wheel drive for those buyers. And of course, the extra performance, I should note, really it's not so much that it's intentional on this. It's a happy side effect of having that second motor, having the dual motor configuration. You just get a whole bunch more power. And so the car does 0 to 60 quite a bit quicker. Now, speaking of the naming thing, though, the whole standard nomenclature really didn't last very long at all. So I have to think that there's a reason for that. Like, I wonder if Tesla wasn't seeing the order numbers that they expected when they introduced these lower priced 3s and Ys. And maybe they thought that the word standard made it sound like it just wasn't good or wasn't good enough. Like, oh, it's just the standard. I don't want that. So I don't know. I just feel like with this change in naming convention coming so quickly after Tesla introduced it, that they probably didn't just change their minds for aesthetic reasons, right? Like, oh, well, because AWD sounds better. Like, no, it's actually more annoying to say. So I have to expect that there was a reason, and the first reason I would suspect would be sales numbers, right? It's affecting the bottom line. They're not seeing the take rate on those that they were expecting. It's possible that they did just get tired of having to refer to it as a standard. And so they decided, well, let's just have the standard one just be the Model Y. And then the premium one will need to be called the premium if you're not talking about the base model. So I don't know. And I don't have anybody from Tesla here to ask, but that's my suspicion. So to wrap this up, before we move along to all the rest of the Tesla and EV news this week, if you're keeping count, there are now a total of 5 Model Y variants here in the US. We have the, again, standard, as I'm calling it, but the standard rear-wheel drive and the standard all-wheel drive, premium rear-wheel drive and all-wheel drive, which have more range and better sound systems, and the performance version, which means if the Model YL is coming soon, per that tip that I passed along to you a couple of episodes ago, it means we might soon go to 6 Model Y variants, which is, that's a lot. That's a lot for any car maker, Tesla or otherwise. But just a fun little nugget there. All right, moving along, more appetizers. Remember the Apple CarPlay rumor that I headlined an episode with when it first popped up late last year? Well, the holiday software update, where I was hoping we might see the Apple CarPlay get dropped, that came and went without CarPlay, but a new report suggests that Apple CarPlay is still in the works at Tesla. I saw this on Teslarati, who writes, although we saw little to no movement on it since the November speculation, Tesla is now reportedly still developing the user interface. Mark Gurman, a Bloomberg writer with a weekly Apple newsletter, stated that CarPlay is, quote, still in the works at Tesla, and that more concrete information will be available, quote, soon regarding its development. Now, if you're not familiar with Mark Gurman, he is legit on the Apple beat. So he's not just pulling out a rumor for clicks. It's not a clickbait thing. Thus, I personally take this report as being pretty darn rock solid. And thus, for me, as far as I'm concerned, CarPlay is absolutely happening, and now it is simply a question of when. When will it roll out to our cars? I would probably set my expectations for it to only be available for the Ryzen chip cars. I hope I'm wrong, and that it does in fact roll out to the hardware 3 cars, the older cars with the Intel MCUs as well, which I own one of those too. And it'd be great to have it in both cars. I guess maybe there is good reason to be optimistic that it's going to roll out to the entire fleet and not just to the newer fleet, because Apple CarPlay does run on lots of other cars that have far inferior processing horsepower compared to an Intel-based Tesla. So, all right, that's got me now feeling a little bit more optimistic about it now that I think through it. But anyway, so for the question of when, I would say the spring update, which is probably going to come along in another month or two. Another next couple months or so, could be in there. Could be the summer update. And then hopefully it wouldn't take any longer than that, especially if Gurman is reporting that more concrete information will be available soon. He doesn't say that it will be rolling out soon necessarily, but more concrete info probably means that it's getting there and that Tesla is going to be getting it out to us in the not too distant future. But so if you've been waiting for this, then this report should come as good news and reassuring news for that matter. Another appetizer-sized bit of news as we continue to get this week's episode going. It comes courtesy of our Tesla tipster friend Sawyer Merritt, who found Tesla's just filed trademark applications with the U.S. Patent and Trade Office for the new Tesla Roadster's silhouette logo, similar to the triangle side profile logo for the Cybertruck that Tesla's been using as a branding image. They've got it on hats, they've got it on shirts, etc. So the new Roadster has a new little silhouette logo, little illustration from the side that we will probably be seeing on shirts and on hats before too long. And also in a separate filing, but at the same time with the Patent and Trademark Office, for the new Roadster wordmark, the font, the new ROADSTER wordmark. I will admit, this is not a major bit of news, but to me it's relevant because A, it's anything new on the Roadster after, we're past 8 years since, we're past 8 years since it was unveiled. We're in year 9 since that car was initially unveiled. And it's also, it's proof of life, basically, on the Roadster. It is an indication that progress is happening on that car and that it is finally moving along and it's going to happen. So anyway, about the image, that silhouette image in the trademark application. So the silhouette is just 3 simple curved lines, basically a sort of hood, a sort of top roof glass on down to the back of the car, and then a body line along kind of the fender and, not the fender, the door and the side of the car. So it's 3 lines that give you just a very, very minimalist of pen strokes, basically, as something of a sneak preview of the car's primary body lines. Admittedly, though, it's not much of a sneak preview, on purpose, no doubt, until we will see it, hopefully, in less than 2 months from now. In fact, the 2017 prototype's silhouette could pretty well fit into that new little 3-line silhouette drawing. I want to give a shout out to listener Joel Lisenby, who sent me a Grok-generated interpretation of what the car could look like. Basically, he gave Grok the silhouette image from the trademark application, And Grok generated a car out of it. And that car looked pretty good. It had kind of a Lamborghini Murcielago vibe to me. It doesn't matter. It's just AI generated. It's probably not what the actual car is going to look like, but it was nice to see it realized into something more tangible, and Grok did a good job of making a good-looking car out of it, I thought. But I, for one, would be pretty thrilled if the car that we're hopefully going to see on April 1st stays fairly close to that 2017 version that we saw 8+ years ago. Because to me, that original prototype is a gorgeous design that has already aged well, even though the car never came out. That design, that prototype, still looks really good to me, especially from the back. The back of that thing, if you don't know what I'm talking about, just Google image search it. The rear of that car is just beastly. It is so aggressive and so cool looking that I would be thrilled if the rear end of that car ends up being the same when it finally goes into production. But at the very, very, very least, the final car that we'll be seeing soon enough is going to be freshened up to some degree, or it could even end up being very radically different from that 2017 design. We shall see. As for the word mark, the ROADSTER word mark, it is, to describe it generally, I think it's fair to say it's kind of a stylized riff on the Tesla font. The E in Roadster is even the 3 horizontal bars, like it is in the Tesla logo. Like there are no vertical lines in the E on the Roadster word mark. But unlike the Tesla word mark, the Roadster word mark is slanted forward as if the word itself is moving super fast, which I guess is fitting for this car. So again, hopefully we're less than 2 months out from seeing this thing. In fact, if it's going to be April 1st, that means we're just over 7 weeks away. But who's counting? Who's counting? Maybe me, I might be counting. On a similar note, while we're talking about the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office, Sawyer also found another trademark application pertaining to the Cybercab. Because you may remember the story that I talked about not too long ago here on the podcast, where another company, in fact, a liquor company, had already beaten Tesla to the punch on trademarking the term Cybercab. So it looks like Tesla now has its backup plan if they're unable to secure Cybercab. So this comes from Sawyer's account on X, and he writes, Tesla has filed 2 new trademark applications for the words cybercar and cyber vehicle in preparation for launching the Cybercab in some U.S. states where Tesla is not allowed to use the words cab or taxi. Now, as I recall on that episode from not too long ago, I think I had suggested RoboCab. Yes, that was what I said because I thought it was cool because it was super close to RoboCop. And I also just liked the sound of the word RoboCab. But I guess cybercar is literally 1 letter off from cybercab. So it is about as close as you can get to cybercab without actually using the word cybercab. So I suppose that'll work just fine too. Admittedly, cyber vehicle, that doesn't do much for me, but hopefully that's the plan C. So it's the fallback to the fallback plan. So we'll see what happens with that as the Cybercab nears its supposed start of production in April. Next, in fact, the last appetizer I have for you this week, as we're already 23 minutes in here, the winners of the latest round of community-voted new supercharger locations have been announced. And I'll just give you, it's a whole bunch of them. It's 36 of them, so I'm not going to read all of these. But the community voted, and thus there will be new locations, new supercharger locations going in Turkey, Poland, Italy, Estonia, Czechia, Lithuania, Portugal, South Korea, Hungary, Slovakia, Quebec, Japan, Malaysia, Greece, and then in the US and Canada, we have Portage Township in Michigan, Heber, Utah. I don't know if that's Heber or Heber. I'm going to guess Heber. Pine Top, Arizona, Pine Top Lakeside, Key Largo in Florida, Portree in the UK, Colombia, Mexico, Geraldton, Australia, Kerrville, Texas, Winter Park, Colorado, Rocky Mountain House in Alberta, West Glacier in Montana, New Glasgow in Nova Scotia, Atoka, Oklahoma, Lake Tekapo in New Zealand, excuse me, Rhinelander in Wisconsin, Rexburg, Idaho, Gualala, California, Harrison, Arkansas, Clovis, New Mexico, Waycross, Georgia, Clear Lake, Iowa, and Summerside in Prince Edward Island. I say this every time that that Tesla does these every quarter, but I just love that Tesla involves the community on this. I really do. I think it's so great. And really, all EV fans should be voting in this, since at least here in North America, they've all got access. All the EVs now have access to the supercharger network. So it really is not just a Tesla community thing anymore. It is an EV community vote. And I think that's pretty cool. Before I continue with the rest of this week's Tesla and EV news, I want to mention this week's lightning round mini episode over on Patreon. For those of you kind enough to be supporting what I'm doing here on the podcast, I put up a mini episode every single week for the kind folks at the $10 per month tier or higher on Patreon. This one, continuing what I hope is going to be a monthly tradition here. This is the second one now. I answered your questions in the monthly mailbag, and there were a ton of them, a ton of great questions. It ended up being a 40-minute lightning round episode, one of the longer ones. Lots of interesting questions were asked. Topics like what I think about the possibility of the quote-unquote Model 2 returning, the possibility of S and X returning. There was a great question that I had, I think maybe some surprising responses, I think, to the question of whether or not the next-gen Roadster will have FSD, and a whole bunch more. Again, it was 40 minutes worth. So thank you to everybody on Patreon who posted a question, and thank you to everybody who is kindly supporting me on Patreon at that $10 per month tier or higher. The support tier start, you can support me for just $5 a month if you like. That won't get you the lightning round mini episodes, but it will get you an ad-free episode every week and early access to that ad-free episode each week. The $10 per month tier, again, gets you the ad-free, the early access, and all 179 now. My goodness, 179 and counting of those weekly lightning round mini episodes. To learn more, to sign up, to join the Patreon, head on over to my Patreon page at patreon.com/Tesla Podcast. And then a quick word from my friends at Accelerate Auto. This goes out to EV owners, not just Tesla owners. One thing that comes up a lot on this podcast is how long people actually plan to keep their cars. In fact, stay tuned for a call about that later in the podcast. And whether people realize it or not, there is a timing element to ownership that matters more than most people think. And when it comes to EV coverage, it's really not about if you buy it, it's about when, right? And we learned that in the world of Tesla more than probably any other car maker. And coverage is generally more cost advantaged when it's purchased before your factory warranty ends rather than after. That's because pricing, eligibility, and available options change with time and mileage, even if there's nothing wrong with the car. Think of it like tires. You don't wait till they're bald to plan a replacement. You look at mileage, you look at wear, you look at timing. EV ownership works the same way. Xcare helps EV owners understand where they are now, what changes later, and when it makes sense to act. And you can talk directly with Tesla and EV experts, not a generic call center. So if you want to find out more, considering an extended coverage option for your EV, you can go to xcare.com, and during checkout, use the referral code LIGHTNING for $100 off. That's LIGHTNING, referral code LIGHTNING for $100 off. If you'd rather speak to a human on the phone, by all means, call them up, 844-755-4186. Again, that's xcare.com, xcare.com. Referral code LIGHTNING for $100 off, or call 1-844-755-4186. Moving right along with more Tesla news this week, Tesla's picked up another major third-party endorsement, with the Model Y named the best electric vehicle in Consumer Reports' newly released 2026 Top Picks list. While the annual rankings span just 10 vehicles across the entire market, the Model Y stood alone as the only full BEV, to earn a category win. I saw this on Drive Tesla Canada, who wrote, Consumer Reports evaluates more than 260 vehicles each year, combining its own road testing with predicted reliability, safety performance, and owner satisfaction data. For 2026, the organization noted a clear industry shift toward electrification and hybrids. But when it came to pure EVs, Tesla's best-selling vehicle remained the standout. According to Consumer Reports, the Model Y continues to deliver a rare mix of traits that appeal to a broad audience. Performance was a key factor, with the publication highlighting the vehicle's strong acceleration and responsive handling, attributes that have long separated Tesla from more traditional automakers entering the EV space. At the same time, the Model Y's hatchback design and roomy interior give it everyday practicality that many electric sedans and compact SUVs struggle to match. Consumer Reports pointed to a smoother ride, reduced cabin noise thanks to acoustic glass, and interior upgrades that make the vehicle feel more premium than earlier versions. Charging infrastructure also played a role in the Model Y's win. Consumer Reports specifically referenced access to Tesla's supercharger network as a major ownership advantage, particularly for drivers who regularly travel long distances. Perhaps most notable is the improvement in reliability. Consumer Reports said the Model Y's reliability metrics continue to trend upward, addressing one of the most common criticisms levied at Tesla's early vehicles. Combined with strong safety scores and high owner satisfaction, the publication concluded that the Model Y now presents a more complete ownership package than ever before. Well, as always, all I can really say to this is congratulations to the Tesla teams, all of them. I will say, for my part, I am particularly impressed, as Drive Tesla Canada did point out as well, by Tesla's improving reliability score. Now, this is because it's the new Model Y, and it is quite a bit better in basically every way than the first generation Model Y. But that's really the one that, if more casual buyers see that is going to stand out to them. Because that's the one, the reliability thing, that's the one that the Fudsters have been pointing to lately. So now, guess what? The Fudsters will have to move the goalposts again to something else that they can complain about. Their shoulders must be sore from having to haul the goalposts, constantly moving them back. I don't know how they must need chiropractic visits on the regular. I don't know. All right, anyway, next up, China will ban hidden door handles on electric vehicles starting next year under a new national safety standard, forcing automakers to equip their cars with mechanical exterior and interior handles. Saw this one on Teslarati, who wrote, "The rule effectively ends a design trend pioneered by Tesla and widely adopted across China's electric vehicle market." China's Ministry of Industry and Information Technology noted that the new mandatory national auto safety standard on EV door handles will take effect on January 1st, 2027. For models that have already received approval and are scheduled for launch, automakers will be allowed to complete required design changes by January of 2029. Under the new rules, exterior door handles must remain operable even in scenarios involving irreversible restraint system failures or thermal runaway incidents in the battery pack, in other words, fires. Doors must also be capable of opening even if the vehicle loses electrical power. Interior doors must include at least one independent mechanical release handle per door as well. Hidden and electrically actuated door handles have become mainstream in recent years as EV makers pursued cleaner styling and improved aerodynamics. Tesla pioneered the hidden handle design, and it was adopted by most Chinese EV manufacturers in either fully hidden or semi-hidden forms, as noted in a CNEV Post report. Today, about 60% of top-selling EVs in China use the design. Chinese regulators have stated that the designs pose safety risks, particularly in crashes or power failures where doors may not open from the inside or outside. Authorities cited multiple fatal incidents in which occupants or rescuers were unable to open vehicle doors after collisions. Well, my understanding here as it pertains to Tesla is that Franz von Holzhausen had already said that Tesla's redesigning their door release system well prior to this new law going into effect, this new regulation. In fact, yeah, I am remembering correctly on that. Here is a quote from the Bloomberg story on this from September of last year, so about 4 months ago, maybe 5. Tesla is looking to combine the electronic and manual door release mechanisms, which are currently in separate locations, the company's longtime design chief, Franz von Holzhausen, said on a Bloomberg News podcast. Von Holzhausen said the decision is intended to make the handles more intuitive for occupants in a, quote, panic situation, end quote. Note, too, that the story talked about exterior door handles as well as interior ones, though. So presumably the 3 and the Y aren't affected on the outside, at least in terms of their operation, their physical operation, because they are manual. Even though they're flush with the body, obviously you push in the fat side and you pull on the thin side. But when you do that, it's popping an electric door release. So that component of the door from the inside and outside is going to be getting redone. Model S, I suppose, would be an even bigger problem with this new law because of the electronically self-presenting door handles on the outside of the car. But Tesla's not only discontinued the car outright, but they had stopped selling it in China a good little while ago anyway. What's interesting to me here is that if you look around, and I'm digressing a bit here, since this story is about China and most American-made cars aren't available there, like the Tesla Model 3 and Model Y are. But a lot of cars, at least here, have also copied Tesla's door handle design. And I'm old enough to remember when the Model S was the first car to ever have self-presenting door handles, or as Franz likes to describe it, doors where the handle is extending out to greet you as if it's a handshake. I mean, nowadays, so many cars have them because I think everybody realized what Tesla did is that, this having the handles flush with the car makes a small but very meaningful aerodynamic efficiency bump over a traditional door handle that sticks out away from the body of the car. But I guess we will see now in the not too distant future what Franz and Lars and the engineering team cook up as a combo design and engineering solution for Model 3 and Model Y in China, which will probably not just be limited to Giga Shanghai built cars. The new design that they have will almost certainly be implemented into all Model 3s and Model Ys worldwide at all 4 factories. The last piece of Tesla news I have for you this week is a welcome one. Tesla to increase dash cam recording history, keeping up to 24 hours of footage. Saw this on Not a Tesla app, who I've cited here a number of times over the years before, who wrote one of the longest standing frustrations of Tesla's dash cam feature is the arbitrary 1 hour limit on rolling dash cam footage. Regardless of the USB drive plugged into your vehicle, whether it's a 128 gigabyte flash drive or a 2 terabyte SSD, the vehicle only retains the last 60 minutes of driving before overwriting it. That means if you forget to save footage within the hour, it'll get overwritten with new footage. What's worse is that the vehicle records any time it's awake, meaning that even after you park, the vehicle is still recording and overwriting data. That is finally changing, according to the release notes for an upcoming software update in China. Tesla's dash cam feature will now support dynamic recording durations. Instead of a hard cap of 1 hour, your vehicle will now look at the total storage capacity of your connected USB drive and scale the recent clip's buffer accordingly. The updated logic follows these benchmarks. With a 128 gigabyte drive, you'll now retain up to 3 hours of rolling footage based on available storage space. With a 1 terabyte drive or larger, you'll now have up to 24 hours of rolling footage. This change allows users to retain video for much longer before it's overwritten. Even for smaller USB drives, the 3-hour limit is a significant increase over the previous 1 hour limit for rolling footage. Well, I love this. This is great. I mean, there's nothing to complain about here. I have Tesla's official 1 terabyte SSD drive at least in the new car. I guess it's only in the new one. I forget. I think I've got a 1 terabyte SSD in the old one. So I'll have to check that the old one is currently at Immaculate Reflections, getting its fresh coating of its fresh ceramic coating applied. I will be picking it up tomorrow after recording this on Friday night. So looking forward to seeing it. But then I'll have to check what size storage drive is in there. But anyway, up to 24 hours if you've got a 1 terabyte drive or larger plugged into your car. So that is great. I will happily take the 24 hours of footage. You hope that you'll never need it. You'll hope. I'm just going to leave it at hopefully, rather than risk jinxing anything by saying probably. But you'll hopefully never need it. But if you ever do, you'll be glad it's there. I have a couple of other EV news stories for you this week. The first one's quick. It's for Rivian, and Rivian is now offering Autonomy Plus for either a one-time $2,500 payment or a $50 per month subscription. So this is the point-to-point, end-to-end, FSD, sort of their initial version that's supposed to be coming along sometime this year. But it is now available to purchase. My advice from my Tesla experience would be to probably not, at least I would politely advise you to not spend any money until Rivian has actually delivered on that point-to-point functionality that they say is coming soon this year. When they do that, and if it's good, because you'll be able to check out reviews and videos on YouTube and stuff, then by all means, $2,500 for my part seems pretty darn reasonable in the grand scheme of things. Certainly, it's a heck of a lot cheaper than the $8,000 that I paid for the Tesla, but that $2,500 is pretty reasonable once it's shown to work. And you can always, even after watching videos, reading reviews, you'll be able to just give it a try yourself in your Rivian for $50 a month. Just spend a month, $50, and then you can buy it if you like it. So it is worth noting that the specific fine print on that is that Rivian is not currently doing an account-based thing here. Like Tesla, they are tying the subscription to the car rather than to the owner, rather than to your Rivian account. So just bear all that in mind as you make your decision on this moving forward if you're a Rivian owner. And then finally this week, thank you to my friend Trevor for sending this story to me. It comes via the CBC, who writes, Prime Minister Mark Carney is repealing Canada's electric vehicle mandate that required all new car sales to be electric in a decade, scrapping a Trudeau-era environmental policy. Instead, Carney is taking his own approach by introducing stronger greenhouse gas emission standards for vehicle models 2027 to 2032 to encourage automakers to produce more zero-emission vehicles. He said, quote, "Canada will set a new, more ambitious sovereign path to reduce automobile emissions. We're tightening by twofold our greenhouse gas emission standards, and we're giving the industry the flexibility how they achieve that, whether through plug-in hybrids, EVs, more efficient ICE vehicles." End quote. Carney expects his new emission system will lead to 75% of new cars sold in Canada being electric by 2035, an ambitious goal, but still less than the previous mandate that Carney is ditching. Government officials said they haven't precisely calculated how much carbon pollution the new system will eliminate, but Carney said it was modeled based on grams per mile. So, quote, from Carney, "It's a 57% reduction in the emissions as this ramps up for the vehicles in the country," end quote. Carney announced that the Liberal government is also launching a new $2.3 billion program to offer consumers and businesses purchase or lease incentives of up to $5,000 Canadian for EVs and up to $2,500 for plug-in hybrids. Plug-in vehicles must be under $50,000 Canadian to qualify and be made by countries Canada has free trade agreements with, which would exclude any vehicles made in China. The price cap will not apply to Canadian-made vehicles, but the maximum $5,000 and $2,500 rebates will only be available for this year. Starting next year, both rebates decrease steadily until the program is slated to end after 2030. Well, I would be curious to hear how my Canadian listeners feel about this. I mean, it's something, that's the good news. It is a meaningful incentive. The problem is if you're after a Tesla specifically, is that only the Model Y standard qualifies. That vehicle is exactly $50,000 Canadian, $49,990, meaning you cannot put a single hardware option on that car and still qualify for this rebate. And as it turns out, the Model 3 standard isn't available in Canada at all. Only the premium Model 3s are, and those are $80,000 Canadian. So there is exactly one Tesla in one configuration that qualifies for this. Fortunately, there are some other EV options in the mix here too that do qualify. I was looking this up. 2 of the 3 trims on the new Nissan Leaf qualify. There's at least 1 trim on the upcoming limited time return of the Chevy Bolt as well, plus a trim of the Chevy Equinox EV. Also appearing to meet the criteria are the Kia EV6, which is a pretty popular car in the EV space, the Volkswagen ID4, same thing, the Kia Niro, and the Toyota BZ4X. The latter 2 I'm not personally a big fan of, but they are a lot more affordable than Tesla's options in the country, at least. So there are some options, but really only at the bottom of the EV market, and that must clearly be Canada's intention with this, is they want to only offer this incentive to buyers who theoretically really need it or would really benefit from it compared to people buying more expensive EVs. That's everything I've got for you in the week's worth of Tesla and other EV news. But now it is time for the Ride the Lightning hotline. I promised you an expanded version of this week. So let's do it. If you've got a question, comment, or discussion topic for the podcast, you can call in anytime using 2 methods. 1, use your smartphone's built-in voice recording software. Record your question. Please try to keep it to 90 seconds or less so I can get to as many calls each week as possible. Then email that file to me at teslapodcast@gmail.com. Alternatively, you can call in and leave a message on the Ride the Lightning hotline. It's a toll-free number. You can call it whenever you like. And that toll-free number is 1-888-989-8752. That number again, 1-888-989-TSLA. And a quick reminder, if you know someone special with an upcoming birthday, anniversary, graduation, or some other special occasion, you can give them a unique gift of recorded voices from friends and family telling them why they're special. The recordings can be podcasted, which is what I'm doing with them, or put onto a keepsake. Visit lifeonrecord.com to learn more. And thank you to the Life on Record folks for providing me the Ride the Lightning hotline here for most of the duration of the podcast, like most of the last 10 years. Love it.
Hey, Ryan, Jason out here in Utah. Hey, thanks for everything you do for the show. Hey, I just wanted to comment on the SNX and all the autonomy changes for Tesla from the earnings call. I mean, at the end of the day, the S and the X probably had to go. I don't think that was any secret. But the challenge is that they seem to want to just move to totally autonomous and not make driver-based cars anymore. You know, as someone who loves to drive and someone who uses FSD all the time, there's times I still want to drive because it's fun. Plus, I go skiing or camping or off-roading, and I'm always going to want a car with a steering wheel. So my fear is that Tesla just isn't going to do any more new car segments or really do anything for the driver who still wants to be able to play sometimes too, besides a super expensive Roadster. So, you know, this is the kind of thing that, you know, could force people to go start looking at other car segments. I'm always going to want to have FSD, but other car manufacturers are also going to continue to improve their autonomy. And unfortunately, this is the kind of thing that may force me to have to start looking at other options here in the years to come. Thanks, Ryan, for all you do. Appreciate it. Bye.
Thanks for your call, Jason. I have seen a very similar sentiment expressed by a lot of people, and quite honestly, I feel the same way. There was a period not long ago, and I may have even said it on this podcast, where I thought that I would have Teslas for the rest of my life. But while I certainly can't predict the future of what my family's transportation wants and needs are going to be, I can say that as I sit here now in 2026, it's possible that I might not buy another Tesla. I mean, my wife's car is likely going to be the next one to get cycled out, barring any unexpected issues with my new one, but that's not going to be for a while. The 2018 car is only 7.5 years old. It just hit 80,000 miles on the odometer. It should, knock on wood, have plenty of life left in it, and it doesn't have any monthly subscriptions on it because it has premium connectivity included for life, as all the cars did back then. And I'm super lucky that that car has free lifetime supercharging on it. But when the time does come, we'll see. I mean, maybe a Model Y makes sense. Maybe another Model 3 will make sense. But I could also see my wife potentially wanting something like the Rivian R3, which will probably be out by the time that my wife's ready for a new car, since, again, we don't anticipate that being for a long time. So we'll see. I mean, again, we could easily get another 3 or maybe a Y for her if the next refresh for those two cars includes a steering wheel and pedals in them. It's entirely possible that they don't. Just like how the Cybertruck, as we heard on the earnings call last week, is apparently going to be converted into an autonomous cargo truck. So I hear you, Jason. And as I think I said last week, I do worry as a Tesla fan that Elon's getting a little bit out over his skis here in terms of the world maybe won't quite be ready or willing to abandon manually driven cars yet, even as autonomy arrives. Next up is Stefan from Monterey.
Hey Ryan, it's Stefan from Monterey. I just listened to the earnings call and I just had one point to make. It's really interesting. It seems like Elon has removed the emotion from driving, which is completely contrary to the very last soundbite every week that you put on your podcast, where he talks about maximum fun. He's removing the fun. He's replacing his fleet with cars that just focus on getting you from point A to point B comfortably and safely, which is good. But he is removing the human factor, which is one of the biggest parts of driving my Tesla that I enjoy. I enjoy taking the roads and accelerating through the curves and having emotion between point A and point B. It's not just about getting there, which is what I think Tesla is decided to do now. So it's not going to be about maximum fun anymore, and that's really unfortunate. He's sanitizing the experience now. And you were right last week when you talked about most people not wanting to farm out their car to other people. It's an individual thing. Having a car is something personal. The marketing of many cars talks about that. Talks about how it's your identity, and he's removing all that. It's truly unfortunate. I think they're going in the wrong direction here, and it's sad to see. Anyhow, that's not maximum fun to me. Bye-bye, and thanks again.
Gosh, Stefan, you are absolutely right. I hadn't even thought about that. Truth be told, when I make each week's podcast, I just click and drag those audio files that I sneak onto the very end into my project file. I never actually listen to them anymore. I've always liked them, though. That's the reason I put them at the end of the podcast. They're like funny little Easter eggs in case you actually listen through the entirety of each episode. But you are absolutely correct. The 2026 Elon clearly does not think about Tesla cars in the same way that the Elon from that clip did. It's from his very first appearance on Joe Rogan. I don't actually remember exactly what year that was, but in short, people like you and me enjoy the journey as much as the destination, if I may sum it up that way. I found myself nodding along in agreement with everything you were saying on your call. I appreciate you calling in. Next up, here's Matthew from Portland, Oregon.
Hey, Ryan. This is Matthew in the Portland, Oregon area. Thanks so much for this podcast and your work at IGN. So I have a thought about Tesla and autonomy. I'm thinking about this because I plan to trade in my 23 Model Y for a Model YL, assuming the rumors are true, or the Rivian R2 once they start delivering it with LiDAR. And so I wonder if Rivian will actually pull ahead of Tesla in the long run in autonomy in terms of safety, and if Tesla will get stuck at level 4, whereas Rivian may be able to achieve level 5. And this possibility may happen, thinking because a camera-only system compared to a camera plus LiDAR system has one limitation that may be surmountable, but one that is insurmountable as far as I understand. So the potentially surmountable challenge is that a camera-only system has to infer distance and size based on depth cues, which our visual system has to do as well. But this challenge may be surmountable through developing algorithms with the assistance of LiDAR validation, which Tesla does appear to be doing. But the insurmountable challenge is dealing with weather conditions that create poor visibility, dense fog, heavy rain, heavy snow. As far as I know, there's no way to get around that limitation with a camera-only system. So I'm curious about your thoughts on this topic and also the thoughts of any of your listeners who have training in engineering or AI programming, since my training is in neither area. Thanks. Have a good day.
Thank you for your call, Matthew. No one knows what the future holds for Rivian, certainly, but we do have a pretty good idea of Tesla's immediate future, and that's the Cybercab. If that car is given regulatory approval, it is a level 5 car, LiDAR or no LiDAR, because it's got no steering wheel or pedals. How reliable it is in snow, fog, and other adverse weather conditions, as you mentioned, does remain to be seen. For what it's worth, there have been pictures and videos posted online of Cybercabs testing on the roads in, for instance, the Chicago area. And Tesla itself posted a pic of a Cybercab on the roads up in Alaska. So I think you're well within your rights to be skeptical of the vision-only FSD system's performance in really rough winter weather conditions. But Tesla, to their credit, isn't just running them around in California and Texas, where that kind of difficult weather doesn't really exist, at least in the kind of areas that Tesla has a presence. As for Rivian, as I've said before, I am rooting like heck for them. I can't wait to see where they go with their system and how long it takes them to get there. I mean, on the one hand, they're still at the start of their autonomy journey, but on the other hand, they might be able to skip some steps by learning from what Tesla and Waymo have already been through. An example of that would be neural nets. Tesla, as we know, switched over to all neural nets a couple years ago after coding everything by hand for years and years before that. Rivian has the advantage of knowing to just start with the neural nets, which they are doing. Cheers, Matthew. Thanks for the call. Moving down to California, here is Ben.
Hi, Ryan. This is Ben from California. Long time, first time. My question is in regards to if you could tap one of your Tesla sources to let us know if we buy a used Model 3 or Y. Specifically, I'm looking at a hardware 4-car with full self-driving equipped from a private party, from a normal person, not from Tesla. After February 14th, will that still transfer over? Can we get confirmation on that? Because I'm leaning towards buying my next Tesla that way to still retain the full self-driving with the car, but I would like confirmation before going that route. Love the podcast. Thank you. Bye.
Hey, Ben. Thank you for taking the time to call. Good news for you here. In short, you're fine. Cars with paid-for FSD can still be sold privately, and the FSD will stay with the car, just like it is now. It's the FSD transfer to a new car that's ending. So no need to worry about this upcoming deadline in your particular situation, and I expect that might help a lot of other people out there feel better too. So hope that helps, Ben. Thanks again for calling in. And moving along, we've got still several more calls to go. This next one is from a regular. Say hi to Brian from Pennsylvania.
Thanks, Ryan. Appreciate that. So this is going to be a little pessimistic, playing devil's advocate with Elon maybe a little bit on this. And I'm curious your thoughts and listeners' thoughts here too. Why does anyone want to buy a Tesla now? They're not going to be making cars. They're not going to be putting their effort into cars. Why would I want to buy a new Tesla, especially if I'm a new person coming to the brand? I have the feeling this move might affect sales in that sense, where new people are they don't see the whole picture of what Elon wants to do, and they're going to, they're not making cars anymore. I'm not going to buy a Tesla. I'll go buy whatever else. And my other comment here, Elon is saying that autonomy is the future. I disagree, and I feel that autonomy is part of the future. Things have been going autonomous for 100 plus years. My furnace is autonomous. I don't have to load coal or wood into it. It automatically does that. My ice maker in my fridge is autonomous. I don't have to fill trays with water. Now, I know he's talking at a whole nother level here of autonomy, but I feel that's decades away, as the old Elon statement is, next year. So my question here to the group is, in the areas that have robo-taxis, and I know you in San Francisco have them, you have Uber and you have maybe some Tesla ones. My question is, why have you not switched over to using those exclusively to get around? And yes, I know that is kind of a weighted question in a sense, maybe not a fair question, but I feel it is, because if autonomy is the future that Elon thinks it is, why are not you all who have these available to you making that jump? Thanks again.
I hear you, Brian. And Elon and Tesla are certainly making a giant bet that being first to autonomy, at least in terms of a regular, affordable car that most people are going to be able to find a way to acquire, is the key to Tesla's future, along with the humanoid robots. I think the point that you bring up about people shying away from Tesla cars because of an apparent lack of focus on them even if for now, again, Tesla's only discontinued 3% of their yearly car production, and they're about to launch a new car in April that, if Elon proves to be correct, will be the equivalent to 100% of their current production. So basically doubling their current output. But because perception is often reality, even if it shouldn't be, right? So that's to your point, and that goes to the poll from earlier this episode that I was telling you about too. But also, as I was saying on last week's episode, I do think there's an emotional component to autonomy that he's not accounting for. That a lot of people are not going to want an autonomous car, even if it's affordable and even if it's safer. Because people fear change. That's not a criticism. We are all human, and humans, just generally speaking, don't tend to embrace change more often than not. And thus, those people will not easily cede control of something, in this case, the act of driving, right? So we'll see. It is a bold bet, as we all know, and it means that the next few years of Tesla are going to be mighty interesting one way or another. Thank you, as always, for your calls, Brian. There are, 1, 2, 3 more calls to get to this week, so let's roll on here with Joey from Ohio.
Hey, Ryan, this is Joey from Ohio. I've called in a couple other times, but I've been listening to your podcast, and wow, as a fan of Tesla, I'm so on the same page that you are, disappointed that there's so much focus on this whole automation piece and not on the driver experience on the car. I fell in love with the Model Y, and I love the Cybertruck. I'd love to have one day, just not in the scope of my pay right now, but just feeling like all of this stuff is just disappearing as options, just almost sickening. So hopefully they find the right path, and who knows, I just can't see people getting in cabs and driving around. I can't see everybody wanting a robot in their house. I mean, for someone like me who lives out in a rural part of the country, I'm not going to hail a cab from my school where I work to come home every day. So that seems kind of pointless, and living out in the country just isn't something that's going to solve a problem for me. So anyway, just wanted to share my thoughts. I agree with you on many levels.
I appreciate the call, Joey. In fact, you make a fantastic point that I failed to make about more rural areas. In fact, I heard from a few other people on this too. The reality is a whole lot of the country here in the United States, but this probably applies pretty globally as well, don't live in big cities. Autonomy can still benefit you, certainly, but in a car that you own. You're probably not going to be hailing a cybercab, as you mentioned. So we shall see what Tesla's future holds. Next, commenting on the FSD subscription changes, is Robert from Texas.
Hey, Ryan, it's Robert from Texas. I've got a call related to the FSD and the monthly payment on it, and also taking autopilot off the cars. First, on the monthly payment, the $100 a month. One thing you have to take into account is the time value of money. If you actually use kind of 6% as a time value of money, assuming you can get 6%, in stocks and bonds or whatever, then actually the $100 a month versus 8,000 is actually 8.5 years, I think, versus 6.7. So 8.5 years. So I think economically, that's a pretty similar or good deal, because most of us don't hold our cars for that long, 8.5 years. Some of us do, but and also because the transferability is not always guaranteed, that's probably not that bad a deal. So on the surface of it, it looks worse than it is, but when you do the math, especially with the cost of capital, it, I think it works out okay. On the autopilot, getting rid of that, I think that, you mentioned this, it's a safety issue. I think if Tesla actually has really good data, which says that autopilot use saves lives, and having that as a standard package saves lives, then they should add that back. I mean, that's just crazy to try and get a little bit of economic gain out of eliminating that. So I would ask Tesla, and hopefully you play this on your show and someone from Tesla listens, that they actually look at the data and look at it in terms of saving lives as opposed to an economic decision to take autopilot off the basic package. Love your show. Thanks a lot. Talk soon. Bye.
Robert, I always appreciate your very considered calls. I take your point about the time value of money, but I would politely, very politely counter with this. And I did have to look this up to fact check myself here. Americans are keeping their cars far longer than 8.5 years on average. I found an article from Reuters from 2024 that says, in part, quote, automobile owners in the United States are holding on to their vehicles longer, according to a new study. The average age of U.S. cars and light trucks this year rose to a record 12.6 years, according to the report by S&P Global Mobility, up by 2 months from 2023, end quote. And then, for another bit of data, here's an article from 2025 that I found on carscoops.com that says, quote, according to data from S&P Global, so the same data provider here as the other one from 2024. So according to data from S&P Global, the average age of vehicles in the U.S. has reached a record high of 12.8 years in 2025, up from 12.6 years in 2024, end quote. So again, I totally hear you on the time value of money, but removing the option to buy FSD outright for $8,000 when, statistically speaking, more Americans than ever are keeping their cars longer, and again, not just longer, but way long enough to justify, to quote unquote, make money on the $8,000 option versus paying the subscription option. And on your second point, yes, I would hope that Tesla would go back and look at the safety data that they have. Every quarter, they put out numbers that tells us how much safer their cars are than an average car with autopilot activated or FSD. So that is part of why I'm upset about Tesla, a self-proclaimed safety-first company, removing basic autopilot from all the new cars. Thank you, as always, Robert. Appreciate the call. And this last one comes from not too far from where I'm podcasting from. It's Brian in Menlo Park asking about the Roadster that I have coming my way. Go ahead, Brian.
Hey, Ryan. This is Brian from Menlo Park. I've been curious about the next-gen Roadster that you won through the referral program. I know it's been a really long time and you don't talk about it all that much, but I'm curious, do you think Tesla will follow through on that referral program promise? And then also, do you get any communication with Tesla on this? Are they just quiet on the whole thing? Is it in your Tesla app? I'm just wanting to know because I know you deserve it, and looking forward to you telling us how that whole thing goes, when and if it ever does. But let us know. We'd like an update. Thanks so much.
Hey, Brian, thanks for the call. The big thing that I want to be very, very careful about with that car is to always make sure that I am liberally sprinkling anything I say with regards to winning that car with a heaping helping of humility. I hope that I never sound like I'm bragging about that car. The reality is I was in the right place at the right time, and it's the craziest thing that's ever happened to me in terms of just unexpected, good, cool things. I mean, sure, I had spent 3 years prior to winning that car building up this podcast and its audience by showing up here every single week. And so, yeah, I did put myself in a position to get those referrals, but it was still very much a right place, right time thing. I acknowledge that. So with that said, I'll tell you, to answer your questions, I've had zero communication from Tesla about it. None of the winners have, to my knowledge. Because quite honestly, and I don't mean this in any sort of mean way, but I just don't think anybody at Tesla is thinking about the approximately 80 or so Roadsters, is the best guess, that they owe to a number of winners. Or at least they haven't thought about us for most of the past 8 years. And I get it, because they haven't thought about that car at all for most of the past 8 years. The company has had a lot of other priorities. But the good news is that those two cars are in my Tesla account. When I log into my account on a desktop, I see my 2018 Model 3 Performance, my 2024 Model 3 Performance, and then two Founders Series Tesla Roadsters that are marked Referral Award in there. So I have four squares: 2018 Model 3, 2024 Model 3, Founders Series Roadster, Founders Series Roadster. And I do absolutely think that Tesla's going to make good on them. I really do. And I hope maybe it's just naive, wishful thinking. Maybe you're all going to be pointing at me and laughing and saying, haha, you actually thought you were going to get that? I don't know. But I do think they're going to make good on it. The cost to them will be really an absolute drop in the bucket of just 1 quarter's profits. And it would, quite frankly, be an incredibly bad PR look if they suddenly had a bunch of winners super mad because Tesla pulled back on their end of the deal. And besides, Tesla came out pretty far ahead in that deal, I would say. It took 55 referrals to win a Roadster. So if you add up the amount of cars worth that those 55 referrals generated, it's way more than 250 grand. So anyway, to kind of move along here, my plan is to keep the car if I can afford to do so. And it is an if, because even with the car being quote unquote free after paying substantial income tax on the value of the prize and sales tax, I presume I'm going to have to pay on that as well, there's still, on an ongoing basis, annual vehicle registration, which is expensive just on any car in California, but the higher price of the car, the more the annual vehicle registration costs. There's insurance costs, and there's tires, which that car is going to have Michelin Sport Cup 2s, or some equivalent to that, which I looked it up. They run roughly $3,000 per set and last about 5,000 miles, because they're basically street legal racing slicks for all intents and purposes. Now, can you tell that I've had a lot of time to think about this? Yes, I've gone and priced out the tires. So it wouldn't be a trivial thing to keep, even when it's free, even when it's a prize that I have won. But because it's a thing that I would absolutely never in a million years have in the normal course of life, if not for this right place, right time circumstance, I can tell you, again, having had years to just think about this, I can sincerely tell you that I want nothing more than to share the joy of this car and share the fun of winning this car. And I want to try and do something good with it. I want to give as many rides to people as possible. And hey, Brian, you're in Menlo Park, so you are very welcome to come and meet up with me. But what I mean by do good with it, which sharing, giving rides, hopefully that's some basic level of good, is just giving, sharing that fun with other people. But I also want to generate something a little more out of it than even that. So my plan is to get a QR code. Well, hopefully that's an easy thing. I want to get a QR code for a charity or nonprofit that I care about. And right now I'm thinking that it would be the NorCal Boxer Rescue Association, who does great work trying to help boxers out there. And they don't have nearly the funding of, say, Canine Companions, who, as you all know, I am affiliated with. Happily, I donate my time to help raise service dog puppies. Actually, on that note, I'll just share with you all right now that we got the bittersweet news that Mina, the future service dog, she career changed. She did not make it, which was it was surprising to me, I'll say, because she was so keen on the training with me, the base level stuff. But I talked to her trainer. The trainer was nice enough to call me to share the news and directly, on the phone with me. And when I mentioned that, she said, "Yes, sometimes the dogs, the higher level of work, they're just not, they get anxiety or they're just not up for that work." And so the good news is that my co-raiser friend, who's a former listener of this podcast, he and his family, that again, we raised Mina together with them, they are adopting Mina forever, because the puppy raiser gets first dibs to adopt the dog forever if that dog does career change, if they don't graduate. So Mina's going to be in a very happy home, and selfishly, it'll be nice. I'll get to see her, and my family will get to see her, so that's cool. It's still, I will say, and I was texting with Michael, my co-raiser friend, we were both saying, like, it's sad, like, because even though, it's sad to say goodbye to them, and I realize I'm going off on a tangent here, but it was kind of relevant, so forgive me for a minute. It's sad to say goodbye to them, right? Like the number one thing by a mile that I hear when I talk to people about when they ask, like, oh, they see the vest and they're like, oh, what's that? What's the deal with that dog? And I explain it's a service dog puppy, and we're volunteer puppy raisers, and we raise the puppy from 8 weeks to about 15, 16 months, and then we give them up, we turn them in, and they go into professional training and hopefully go graduate. And like, I would say 8 out of 10 people say to me, oh, I could never do that. I could never give them up, which is a perfectly reasonable emotional response, right? Because you get attached to the dog. But I had the privilege and the pleasure of Zelina, our first one, graduating. She made it, and she graduated, and getting to attend her graduation ceremony, and more importantly than that, to meet the family that she was going to live with forever and help. It's a very moving experience, and it makes the emotional difficulty of saying goodbye to the dog that you've raised since 8 weeks trivial by comparison. And so that's what I would say politely to anybody that maybe might be interested in puppy raising with Canine Companions or another service dog organization, but you're kind of held up by that idea, that difficult thought of giving the dog up. But anyway, so Mina is going to have, it's sad that she didn't make it, but although speaking of, so it turns out Zelina, her family, they're going out of the country for a physical therapy opportunity that happens to be in another country. So they're not taking Zelina, and they've so very sweetly reached out to us and said, would you guys be able to watch Zelina for us? And it's like, well, you're doing me the favor. So we're going to get to see Zelina again. Zelina will be back on the podcast is it next week? I think 2 weeks from now. I think it's 2 weeks. She'll be back. So anyway, I realized, sorry, I got way, way off track there. But to circle back to Roadster, and again, so Canine Companions is an awesome organization, but thankfully they are very well funded. Not that they don't graciously accept donations, but that they're in good shape. The NorCal Boxer Rescue organization, that's who I'm thinking, like, because they could really genuinely use the donation. So my thinking is, anybody that takes a ride in the Roadster, I will politely request, but to be clear, not require. If you say no, that's okay. Politely request that you scan the QR code that I'll hopefully have, and that you donate, say, $10 to NorCal Boxer Rescue in exchange for the ride in the Roadster. And so that's how I want to try and use that car to do good. That's my thinking. And then I'll tell you this, if the car really can hover, as Elon's been talking up for years, I mean, he's been using the word fly, which obviously it's not going to like literally fly, but if it hovers, and that's a cool party trick kind of thing, I would love to see if maybe any local children's hospitals would want me to come by and demo the hovering and let the kids who are being treated there sit in the car, ask questions, poke around on the screen, that kind of thing. So, sorry, I know that was an extraordinarily long answer, and admittedly, I recognize that was kind of a navel-gazing thing too that I was doing there. But Brian, you can tell again, I've had many years to think about all of this. So, thank you so much for your call, and to anybody that wasn't interested in hearing any of that, I apologize for how long that tangent was, and I will now move along. That was actually the last call that especially after how long that was. So I'm going to stop there for this week, but I will get to more of your Ride the Lightning hotline phone calls next week, so keep them coming. And again, if you're wondering how to call in, I gave you the 2 call-in methods and the easy instructions for both at the top of this segment. As for what's going on with me and my car, I am up to 98%. I think I might have said this last week, but I'm at 98% FSD usage since version 14.2. And just today, I had to pick my daughter up from school. Normally she takes the bus because she had an orthodontist appointment. And so I let FSD do the whole thing. I said, let's see how this goes. Because as I've talked to you guys about many times over the last several years since I've been lucky enough to be in the FSD beta program, San Francisco is a tough place for FSD. It's a tough place for a self-driving car to work. And it's really, I would say version 12 was the first one where it could legitimately drive around San Francisco with minimal disengagements. Version 14 now, so I'm on whatever, I think it's 14.2.2.4, I think. But it went across the city to my daughter's school, and when it got there, it parallel parked itself on the street. My daughter gets in the car. I put in the address for the orthodontist's office. It drives us back across to another side of the city, and did a tremendous job there too. And then after we were done, had it take us home, and I had 0 disengagements. I did have to goose the accelerator once at a particularly tricky intersection that I've talked about on this podcast before, but it just did. I was really incredibly impressed. Like that was probably, it wasn't that many miles of driving, but it was all hardcore San Francisco city mileage. And it was probably a total of an hour. And it's not like we were in stop and go traffic. It was just San Francisco takes a while to get across. It was probably a total of an hour and 15, hour and 20 minutes worth of driving. 0 disengagements. It did incredibly well. I was really genuinely super impressed with it. It was awesome. So that's what's going on with me and my car. As for your pro tip of the week, it comes from John in Palo Alto.
This is John from Palo Alto, longtime listener. I think 2016 I started listening right after we got our Model S, and love your show, Ryan. Anyway, I have a simple pro tip, and that is I always seem to struggle trying to get the plug out of the receptacle when I'm using the 120 volt portion of the mobile charger. So my fix is just to get a cable tie, wrap it around the cylindrical portion of that plug, and before you cinch down the cable tie fully, tuck the tail of the excess cable tie behind, next to the rubber receptacle, behind the band of the cable tie, and then snug it tight so you have a little loop to be able to stick your finger into and pull out from the wall. Anyway, it seems to help me a lot. I've been using that one cable tie for about a year now. It seems to hold just fine. Anyway, I hope this helps some folks. And thanks again for your show.
John, thank you for your pro tip, and thank you for being such a long-time listener. 2016, that's almost all the way back to the very beginning of this podcast. I love it. As for your pro tip, you know how Tesla just started awarding all of us those different badges in our app at the end of last year based on the different charging-related things we did? Well, I don't have an actual badge to give you here, John, but I'm awarding you the Ride the Lightning MacGyver Award for 2026 for this make-your-own handle life hack to more easily unplug that 120-volt adapter out of the wall with your Tesla mobile connector. Now, by the way, for younger listeners who might not be familiar with MacGyver, it was a TV show where the hero was a guy known for solving problems by coming up with creative solutions using the things around him. It was a very, very 1980s show in the very best of ways. But anyway, I am happy to share this in case other listeners out there find it useful. Thank you, John, very much. And if anybody else out there has a good Tesla or EV pro tip of the week, I'd love to hear it. Please do send it in. You just call in like you're calling into the regular Ride the Lightning hotline. Please try to keep it to 90 seconds or less, just like with a regular call. And I gave you the 2 call-in methods, the instructions for those, just a little while ago, so refer back to that. Before I go, I want to mention a few friends of the podcast, including a new friend, Infinity Shield. Quick funny story, did I ever tell you all back in 2018, not long after I got my first Tesla, about the time that I accidentally lowered my garage door onto my Tesla as I was backing it out of the garage? It was a long time ago, and I'm really lucky that I got away with literally just a super small scratch on my roof glass. In fact, when I told my wife about it, she couldn't even see it. She couldn't even find the scratch. But if I had had the Infinity Shield back then, it never would have happened. So you're wondering, okay, well, what's the Infinity Shield? Most garages, like mine, only have a single beam sensor that detects objects about 6 inches off the ground. This is a leading cause of damaged car hatches, bumpers, and garage doors. Ask me how I know. So Infinity Shield is the world's first full coverage garage door sensor utilizing 25 beams. Yes, you heard me right, 25 beams. It looks like, I mean, you can't see the lasers, obviously, but if you could, it would look like the laser sensors surrounding the Hope Diamond in a heist movie, right? That the cat burglar is trying to like contort his or her body through to try and get to the diamond. So it detects protruding bumpers, it detects open hatches, or anything else in the way of the garage door. It's easy to install yourself with no special tools. It does not need to be aligned ever, and it's compatible with all garage door openers. It's really a heck of a piece of engineering. Get yours at infinity-shield.com and use promo code RTL at checkout for a 10% discount, or click the link in the episode description. So again, that's infinity-shield.com, promo code RTL for a 10% discount. And then, of course, we have my other new friends at RPM Tesla. They've been around a long time. They specialize in OEM-style Tesla upgrades, focusing on carbon fiber interior enhancements and functional accessories that integrate seamlessly with Tesla's factory designs. And they are all about compatibility, meaning their accessories don't compromise Tesla's design language, their safety systems, or their functionality. RPM Tesla designs a ton of stuff in-house, like all their steering wheel upgrades for the yoke and the round grip. They prioritize quality over speed, so you're not getting cheap junk here. Speaking of cheap, though, you can buy with confidence because RPM Tesla offers free returns, no restocking fees, and lifetime warranties. They feature over 500 DIY installation videos to make your installation quick. They only sell the best high-quality accessories, over 1,500 of them since 2013, and they are family-owned, located in Southern California. They also continually refine their designs based on actual customer feedback. In all, RPM Tesla is about enhancing your Tesla ownership experience, elevating what's already awesome about your car. Check them out at rpmtesla.com and use the promo code RTL Pod Plus, RTL POD, and the plus sign for 10% extra off of your next order. That's rpmtesla.com, promo code RTL Pod Plus. AbstractOcean.com, my longtime friends, and they're still around, still thriving for good reason. Again, if we go there right now, AbstractOcean.com, so much good stuff. I'm going to click on Model 3 here. Let's see, Model 3, they've got satin black logo emblems. Of course, Tesla themselves switched over to satin black ones for the 2026 model year. If you've got a 2024 or 2025 new Model 3, as I do, maybe you want to grab these. They're $19 for a front and rear pair. That is pretty darn affordable. They've got premium floor mats for the Model 3, door noise reduction seals. They've got the super hydrophobic camera cover, the puddle lights in different colors, the wheel center cap kit, depending if you're running without the aero cover on your wheel, depending on which wheel design you've got. They've got the ultra premium tempered glass screen protectors for the front and second row screen as well. Those are just $50. So I could keep going and going all night here, but you got to check them out. AbstractOcean.com. When you get there, click on the vehicle that you have, whether it's a Tesla, a Rivian, or something else, and it will show you all the great accessories and products that are available from AbstractOcean.com for your vehicle. And make sure that when you've got everything you like in your online shopping cart, you use the coupon code RTLPodcast, all one word, no spaces. Use that promo code at checkout to get 15% off of your first order. The Snap Plate and the newer, stronger Snap Plate Plus, available for all the Teslas, the Rivians, lots and lots of EVs at this point. You can get yours at everyamp.com/RTL. There's a coupon code here as well for a discount for you guys, and that coupon code is simply RTL. This is the front license plate bracket. It's a nice, clean, minimal design. I recommend it if you either want or are legally required to have a front license plate on your car. I recommend the Snap Plate or the stronger Snap Plate Plus. Both are made from recycled, made in the USA plastics with stainless steel reinforcements. And they both have that signature minimalist aesthetic that blends in super nicely with the front end of your car. So again, get yours by clicking the link in the episode description or by going to everyamp.com/RTL, and don't forget the coupon code RTL. Immaculate Reflections. If you are in need of or desire of some top shelf professional detailing services for your car, whether it's your Tesla or any other car in your garage that you really care about, and you're in or going to be in the greater San Francisco Bay Area, I cannot recommend strongly enough that you reach out to Jeff at Immaculate Reflections. Make sure you do it ahead of time. You got to book an appointment because he's always got a lot of cars in there. I was just there, and he had, let's see, he had a good maybe half a dozen cars in there. So get in touch with him, get on his calendar, and then work with him. He'll work with you on what you want to do. Maybe that's paint protection film on the front end of the car. Maybe that's ceramic coating, which is exactly what I'm having redone literally right now. He's not working right now. It's 9:34 p.m. At least I hope he's not working. The car should be the ceramic should just be curing overnight. But anyway, I'm having my ceramic coating redone because the first ceramic coating that I had on that 2018 car that I got right when it was new lasted 7 years. 7 years, well worth the money. And so I'm having it done again because we plan to keep this, as I was saying earlier in the podcast, we're planning to keep my wife's car, the 2018 Model 3 Performance, for a good long time more. So we want to keep that finish protected with ceramic coating, keep those evil UV rays from getting down into the paint and damaging that paint. So ceramic coating you can do, maybe paint correction, where Jeff will get into the finish of your car, take out all those little swirls and imperfections, and have your paint looking better than it ever has. So whatever you want to do, Jeff will work with you. to go set up an appointment, go to the website, which is irdetailing.com. Click the contact button in either the center of the homepage or the top left corner. And when you reach out, just, again, mention what you're looking to do, maybe what your budget is. And again, Jeff will work with you. Make sure to mention that you're a Ride the Lightning listener. And then any work that you have done, you will get the Ride the Lightning discount applied, which he was kind enough. I got the Ride the Lightning discount. So I'm very, very grateful for that. The Patreon, I mentioned it earlier. Let me mention it one more time. That is the primary way that you can choose to support this podcast. I'd be mighty grateful if you would at least take a look at my Patreon page. Find it at patreon.com/Tesla podcast, or click the link in the episode description. You'll see the $5 tier. You'll see the $10 tier. You'll see the 7-day free trial option. You will see the annual pledge option. If you don't want to do the month-to-month thing, but you're like, hey, you know what, Ryan? Yes, I'll throw you a one-time payment for a year of supporting you. That's there too. And I say thank you for doing an annual pledge by giving you a 10% discount on that annual pledge. So you can find all that stuff on the Patreon page. Again, patreon.com/Tesla podcast. The podcast is mostly found on it's available on all the big podcast services. That's what I'm trying to say. Spotify, TuneIn, Apple Podcasts, YouTube Podcasts, etc. Just search Ride the Lightning Tesla. This podcast should pop right up. Click the follow button, and then that's totally free, by the way, and then you'll get a push notification anytime there's a new episode, which for this show is every Sunday at 9 a.m. Eastern, 6 a.m. Pacific. Also, the referral program, my referrals got reset, I noticed, because I had maxed out. You guys had used all of them, which is great, super appreciated. But if you are buying a new Tesla, let me just double check here. So the perk now is if you order with my referral code, you'll get 3 free months of full self-driving, which I presume is on top of the 30-day free trial that you already get. I hope so. I actually don't know for sure. Hopefully it's not just 2 extra months and it's a total of 4 months. But anyway, if you're planning to buy a Tesla, feel free to use my referral code or anybody else's. You don't have to use mine, and use anybody's. But if you're going to buy a Tesla, you might as well get the 3 free months of FSD that's on Model Y or Model 3. If you're buying a Cybertruck or getting in on a Model S or X before they go away, the referral link, will get you $1,000 discount off of those 3 vehicles, any of those 3 vehicles, Cybertruck, Model S, or Model X. So to use my referral code, you have to order through it. So type in any browser, mobile or desktop, ts.la/Ryan73014. And that will take you to the referrals page where it says order with Ryan's referral. And then you click which car you want. You can either buy from inventory or custom order a new car. And when you submit that order, it will have that referral baked in. So you'll either get the 3 free months of FSD or you'll get the $1,000 discount. And finally, you can email me anytime, teslapodcast@gmail.com. You can also follow me on X and or Instagram. I have the same username on both, and that username is DMC_Ryan. Finally, let me say hello and thank you to the top tier Patreon backers. I'm going to start with the grandfathered in plaid level supporters this week. This tier is officially no more on my Patreon, but these very kind and generous folks continue to pledge at that tier, and so they get all the perks and bonuses that they should get for continuing to be at that tier. Big thank you to George Cassiopo, Logan Willis, Peter Chalet, Eric Randolph, Dory and Steve Guberman, the Tesla owners of Taiwan, Ron Lee, Charlie Gillespie, Jeff Angwin, Chase Cabanillas, the Lydia family, Aaron Altschul, Jared Brown, Jamie Dalton, Mike and Barbara from Louisville, Matt Nixon, the Tesla Owners Club of Wisconsin, Ish, not Elon Musk in quotes, Peter and the Bear Boys of Colorado. Next up, the Maximum Plaid backers. We've got our monthly Zoom Hangout, monthly Patreon Hangout coming up on Zoom tomorrow as I record this. Should be a good one. An extra big thanks then goes out to the Maximum Plaid backers who get invited to every single one of those. Hopefully I'll be seeing a number of you tomorrow on the call. Jonathan Wales, Cameron Clark, Daniel Grummer, Seth Capello, the Galpin family, Ryan from New York City, Darren Nickel, Kaz Barnes, Patrick Wisniewski, Gil Cabrera, Todd Badger, Joe Edgel, Kevin Yank, the Tesla Owners Club of San Joaquin Valley, Will Stedman, Jeremy Harris, Chris Beach, Tom Mills, Corey O'Donnell, Aaron, John Cody, Joel Sapp, Paul Casarino, Chris Osborne, KB, Adam Lavoie, Jason Chalukas, Travis Krenzel, Bruce Otterstein, Tom Behan, Josh Pennington, John from Cream Ridge, New Jersey, Dustin Hart, Derek Finley, Charles Clement, Damon Klein, Jeff Brown, Jerry Slinger, Kenneth Corbett, Brian Bertoglio, Kim Bay, Troy Sievers, Chip Hooper, Matt Chinander, Robert Moran, Rav, Christopher Mann, Michael Williams, and Eric Harbert. Finally, the Roadster in Space tier backers. Big thanks goes out to Pete White, Lyle Austin, Steve Radspinner, Fernando Cordero, Lawton from Chicago, Sean Neidig, Neil Weaver, Jackson Wallace, Rolf and Jennifer Evers, Howard Anthony Smith, Victoria Iacovetto, Tesla Hitchhiker 42, Carol Weston, Robert from near Philly, American Home Contractors, Doug Carey, Michael Gallo, and Tony Figueroa. And want to wish, by the way, Victoria Iacovetto messaged me. Her dad turned 96 this week. Happy birthday to your dad, Victoria. That is awesome. And what's awesome is that all of you hung in to this point. This was another long episode. Where are we at here? We're at, we're well past the 90-minute mark. So I will stop talking here and let you get back to your day or evening, whatever you happen to be listening. But this was a fun one. I hope you enjoyed it. I had fun putting it together and recording it. Happy electric motoring, my friends, and I'll see you back here next week.
Elon Musk, people don't like Elon Musk. The guy founded PayPal and Tesla, and people are like, yeah, but he's a troll and a bad dad. I'm like, so was mine. He did nothing to fight climate change. Also, have you been in a Tesla? Have you been in a Tesla? My buddy let me drive his Tesla. I laughed out loud at how fast it went. Been clinically depressed my entire life, on dozens of medications, in a Tesla for 13 seconds, cured forever.
I mean, I think a Tesla is the most fun thing you could possibly buy ever. That's what it's meant to be. Our goal is to make it's not exactly a car. It's actually a thing to maximize enjoyment. It's maximum fun.